Before we start this video, large thank you to a name I unfortunately cannot pronounce. Thank you for the support, my friend. Strange Ninja, Tenatian, Divergent Realities, John Perry, Tianqui, Gayo, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, man, Rafael, Hypnotics, and Jackson for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hello, everybody. So before we start the video, I want to give a brief explanation of what this is and how we're going to do this. So we're going to be using a JSON format to save the file, and this is an oversimplified explanation of how it works, but I'm going to direct you first to the save game, instruction set on the bottom of this picture. So we're essentially taking data from our character. This could be the transform, which is the location in the scene, what we have equipped in terms of weapons and armor, etc. We're writing this to a save data file, and then we're serializing this information and writing it as a JSON file and saving it to our device. And then when we load the game, we're going to essentially select which character we want, and that will in turn get a specific file. We're going to take the data from JSON and deserialize it to a save data file. And then we take all the data from that save data file and move this back to our character. And that is essentially a very simplified explanation of how saving data works. Now, there's one very important point I have to make. You can only save the very basic variable types. So when I say this, I mean you can't save something like a game object. So when you have things like weapons and equipment, we're going to get into learning how to make databases for them, because I can't save, for example, the game object of a straight sword in my right hand. I have to make a database for this weapon, let's say an item database, and I give it a number. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Souls games, or games in general. Most, if not all games, they have IDs assigned to their items and equipment. And then what we do is we just save this number. So let's say, for example, a straight sword has a number ID 200. And then we save, okay, the player is currently wielding in their right hand number 200 weapon ID. And then when we load it back in, we say, okay, instantiate or spawn in a straight sword. So we'll say, take this weapon ID 200 and give me the weapon that goes with this ID and spawn in our hand. So we hand 200 to the item database. It spits back at a straight sword. We put the straight sword in our player's hand. So because of this too, on top of saving, I'm going to show you how to make things like item and equipment databases. And basically, I'm going to show you how to save everything. And I want to give a shout out to a gentleman before we start this. His name is Trevor Mock. I'm going to show a picture on screen now of his video. I'm using a modified version of his tutorial on how to make a save and load system in Unity 2022. I found this particularly useful because he shows you how to serialize dictionaries, which was a blessing when I found this, because that's exactly what I was looking for. So on top of what he's doing here, I'm going to show you item databases, and also I've altered his code quite a bit because I'm making support for X amount of character save slots, and I also just kind of changed the way things are written a bit to suit my preferences. But again, very fantastic video, and if you want to go check it out, I will also put a link to it in the description. Thank you, Trevor. Okay, with that simple explanation out of the way, let's get started. Okay guys, so the first thing you want to do is go to your scripts folder. I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call mine save game. And this is going to be housing all the scripts that utilize the save and load functionality. So let's start by making a script. The first one I'm going to call it character save data. This will be think of it as like a file that will pop up every time you want to read data or write data to be saved. So put my namespace in. This will be everything you want to save from your character, from the location that they're in the map. Get rid of mono behavior, by the way, don't need that. And let's say system.serializable so we can see this. Yeah, everything from the location, the map, their name, the level, etc., etc. So I'm going to start by making a public string. I'm going to call this character name, and then I'm going to make another variable down here. We'll just do a few to start off just to show you the concept of it. So I'll make a public int called character level, and I am going to make we'll do one more, or we'll do a set, because you can't save a vector3, as I said earlier. That doesn't fall into one of the basic data types. So what is a vector3? Well, really it's just three floats. It's an x, y, and z. That's your position. So let's make a public float for x position, a public float for y position, and a public float for z position. And you combine these, and that is how you get a vector3. Very simple. So now we have some basic data to save. We can actually just really start writing the rest of the logic here. And by the end of this video, hopefully we'll have it so you can save data. So let's make another script. let's call this save game data writer. And this does just what it suggests. It handles writing data in one direction or the other from your save game files. So delete mono behavior, don't need that. And now let's start off with some functionality. Let's make the first variable here a public string for save data directory. And don't fill it in for now because we're going to fill it in automatically. I'm going to call it save data directory path. Just going to put these quotation marks here and leave it empty because this will become auto-filled for us using a bit of functionality. So let's make a public string data save file name. This will change depending on the save file slot you're using, so character slots 1 through 10, for example. But we're going to give it a random name for this video before we start adding slots so the functionality works. Now let's make a public void write character data to save file. And let's make this pass a character save data variable type, which we just made. And I'm going to call it character data. Now, it's getting mad at me because I didn't put in my namespace, so that's why it's not allowing me to see this as a proper variable. So I'm going to put in my namespace so Unity stops being angry. Okay, cool. So let's delete everything up here. We don't need anything right now except for using system and using system.io. So a lot of this is going to probably look strange to you if you've never looked at saving games before. Don't worry, the syntax does look a bit odd if you haven't used it, but it will make sense, I promise. So let's start off by making a comment here. Actually, you know what? Before I make the comment, I'll just write the code and explain it after. It's probably easier that way with this circumstance. So let's make a string called save path. And we're going to say that equals path.combine our save directory path and our save file name. Remember, these are being written from another place in the future, so don't worry about it. So this is just basically making a path for our save file. Where is it going to be saved? What is the save file going to be called? So I'm going to say creates a path to save our file. So for example, you have your file name character save data at path hard drive C folder whatever, and then it will just, that is where the path will be saved to. So we're going to say try directory dot create directory path dot get dictionary name save path. And what this does is it just basically tries to create a file directory if there's not one there of whatever the save path will be. So then we're going to say debug.log. Did I spell that wrong? Why is that not? Oh, let's put catch here too first so this stops giving us grief. So it won't give us an error. And then we can throw an exception there if you want to. And then we can basically just use this if we have an error. Why is this not letting me write debug.log? Did I spell that wrong or something? I don't think I did. Oh, I'm a fool. It's because we're not using the Unity engine. Okay, debug.log, save path equals, and then you could say plus save path. This will tell you that you've saved your game at the save path. So you can keep that there if you want. I'm going to comment it out for now because I don't need to see this on the screen, but I encourage you to keep it there if you want. Just make sure it's saving to the proper save path. Okay, next, right below this, let's keep moving. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to make a string. I'm going to call this data to store is equal to json utility dot to JSON character data. So what does this do? This takes basically the character data and it serializes it to a JSON file. I'm just going to put comment hit true. If you want to read more about this, I honestly don't know much past the functionality of what it does. I couldn't explain to you the mechanisms of how it works. I just know that it does serialize the C# game data to a JSON file, which is all I need to know to make this work. Okay, so next down below here, let's say write the file to our system after we serialize it to a JSON file. So for that, we need to say using brackets file stream. I'm going to call this stream equals new file stream. And then open up some brackets. We're going to say save path and file mode needs to be .create. Now I know, again, the syntax is probably really weird if you haven't done much about saving games before, but it all makes sense when you read it. I think it's pretty straightforward. So we're just basically writing a new file here. So we're going to come down here and say using stream writer equals new stream writer stream. We're going to say writer.write data to store. So we're writing this JSON file we have just serialized from our C# data. and we're just writing it at this place here, creating a file for it at the save path, and then that basically just creates the file for us. Now down here in catch, we can say, if this for some reason doesn't work, we can say debug.log error. We can send a message, error, while trying to save data, game could not be saved. And if you want to, you can put a plus here too, and also add in the EX for the exception. And that will likely give you some more insight. Okay, so this is, that's it for the write character data to save file. That's it, pretty straightforward. It's simple once you understand what everything is doing there. It's just serializing a JSON file and writing it to our computer. That is literally it, or our device rather. So let's make a public void for delete save file. This won't be used in this video, but it will be used in the future when we have multiple save file slots. It's very simple, file.delete, and then you pass the path, and you combine the save data path directory and the file name that you want to delete. That's it. Super straightforward. What if you want to know if a file exists? Let's say if you want to make a new save file in character slot X, but you want to make sure that character slot X doesn't already contain a save file. Well, you can make a public bool, check if save file exists. And this is also pretty straightforward. We can just say if file.exists, then we go from our path.combine save data directory path and our data save file name, then we return true, else we return false. And I use this in my other project to determine if a character slot already has a file or not. So I'll go over that in a future video as well, so we have the functionality there for that now as well. All right, what's next? Let's check my notes here real quick. All right, so right above this, this is the last piece of functionality for the script. We are going to make a public character save data function. So this will return a character save data. And we're going to call this load save file. And I think actually a better name for that, let me just think for a second. We'll call this load character data from JSON. So it does exactly what it says. It takes a JSON file and it regurgitates back to us a character save data script that we can, or file rather, that we can use. So let's make a string for save path, and that equals path.combine save data directory path and our data save file name. So we're looking for this save file at this path, and we're going to say character save data. Let's call this loaded save data, because this is the file we're trying to load from a JSON, is equal to null at first. So it doesn't exist yet. We have to find it somehow. So we're going to say if file.exists at our save path, we're looking for, again, the JSON file. We're going to say try, and then we are going to say string save data to load is equal to, so this is going to be the data we're trying to load, and then put it some quotations here, nothing yet. We're going to say using file stream is equal to new file stream, and this time we're going to say save data to load, or sorry, rather save path. And then we are going to say file mode dot open instead of create. So we're looking to open a file this time that already exists. Then we're going to say using stream reader. Much of this is similar as the other function here. Equals new stream reader, stream. Open some curly brackets. And we're going to say save data to load equals reader dot read to end. And we're getting an error here because I didn't put the catch down here. So I'm just going to do that. And if you want, you can throw a debug log here. So if we get past the file exists portion and we still get an error here, then we know the file exists, but it must be blank because we start by opening if file exists at save path, try this. So if this catch goes off, then obviously something is going on here. The file is blank or some other mishap is happening. So I'm just going to put a debug.warning and then throw the exception message. Else, if the file does not exist, debug.log save file does not exist. So it's very similar to writing. You're just doing the opposite of you're reading. So we're not creating a file. We're looking for a file that's already there, and we're trying to open it instead of creating it, using a lot of the same functionality, though. So then we're going to say return loaded save data. Okay, so that's it right now for this script. So I'm going to save this, and we're going to make our next script. And we're going to right-click, create C# script, world, save game manager. And this is going to be a persistent game object in the scene that will go on and on. So because of that, I'm going to put namespace here first. But we're going to make this a singleton, and we're going to do it in a very simple way. So I'm going to say public static world save game manager instance. So on awake, if the instance does not exist, because there can only be one of them, because it's static, we're going to say instance equals this. If it does exist, we somehow must have accidentally put two of these in the scene at one time, so destroy this game object. So whichever one loads in first is the instance. If another one happens to load in, destroy it, because that's not supposed to be happening. There should only be one world save game manager. Okay, so make a header. I'm going to call this save data writer, and I'm just going to put down our save game data writer. I'm going to call it save game data writer. And then right below that, I'm going to make a header. I'm going to call this current character data. And in the future, this will change depending on the save file slot you have. So I'm going to put some pseudocode here for character slot number. But right now, we're only going to do one until the whole system is complete. Then we'll add up the ability to do multiple. So public character save slot data, current character save data. Then a string for the file name, which in the future will be determined by your character slot number. But right now we'll just make it some arbitrary name because there is only one character slot until we add multiple. And then header for saving and loading. We're just going to make two bulls here, kind of as just an easy way to do it in the scene. We can handle this in the future through certain events, but whenever we click on save game or load game through the inspector rather, we're going to use the save and load function. So this is a good way just to do it in testing, and you can access it quickly. I put the awake above my variables, which is a cardinal sin, so I'm going to put it below because that was actually driving me insane. Didn't notice that. Sorry about that if that hurt somebody very badly. So next I'm going to make a start function, and I'm going to call do not destroy on load. It's important you put this on start, not on awake. You want to call it after your singleton has been established. And then we're going to say load all possible character slots. This is a future thing to do because if you have 10 character slots, you have to load all the files and have them readily accessible for a person who's choosing their character slot. But right now, don't worry about it. Just make a comment there. Now, under update, let's say if save game. Whoops, I just hit my microphone. Sorry if that was loud. We're going to say save game is equal to false. And then we're going to save the game. Else if load game is equal to false, and then we are going to load the character data. I guess load character data would be a better name than load game because we're just loading the data and putting it to one specific character. So I'm just going to say load save data. Okay. Now, let's begin with, let me check my notes here again. All right, so let's start by writing out a comment here, and I'm going to say new game and then another comment right below this. We're going to say save game and another comment for load game. And let's put these in one at a time. In this video, we're going to do the save game function. So we're going to handle actually saving our character's data to our new character data file. So what we want to do is make a function, public void save game. Has to be public because we're going to call this in the future from other sources. So let's say save game data writer equals new dot save game data writer. So we're just declaring this variable up here that we already have right here. That's it. And then we're going to say save game data writer. Whoops, not save game. We want to establish our path. Remember how I said don't worry about it earlier? We're going to do that. So we're going to say save data directory path equals application dot persistent data path. What is that? Well, I encourage you to look it up. That basically chooses the best path for the device you're using, because Macs, for example, don't always have the same persistent path as a PC. I don't think they do in general, actually. So this will discover or figure out the best path and make it for you. So then we're going to say save game data writer dot data save file name is equal to whatever we have our file name established as. This will change depending on the character slot, but for now we can give it an arbitrary name. And then we're going to say player, we don't have this yet, don't worry, dot save character data to current save data. And then we're going to pass a reference of the current character data we want to save to. Now, we don't have this yet. We're going to make this in just a second. So for now, I'm going to comment that out. I'm doing this in the order that you would see it executed at. So I'm going to make a comment here to explain this. We're going to pass along all of our characters' data. So we're going to give the save file our transform, our name, and our level. And that's going to write it to this current character save data file. And as you know, after we have that file, of course, we need to save it or write it to the computer. or the device rather. I say computer because obviously I'm using a computer. So we're going to write the current data to, oh my goodness, what was I just typing? To a JSON file and save it on this device. Serialize it to a JSON file, I suppose, if I want to be a little more specific. So we're going to say save game data writer dot write character data to a save file, and we're going to pass our current character save data. I'll make a debug.log. I'm just going to say saving game dot dot dot, and I'll make another debug log. And I'm going to say file saved as, and then I'm going to put plus your file name, and that's it. So now we must go to the player and make this function. And this is a very, very, very simple function. So I'll show you. Let's go and, well, we can uncomment this out. But first, let's actually make a player manager variable. So public player manager. If you want, you can make it private, serialize it. It depends on how you want to assign this, really. Do you want to assign it from the script? Do you want to assign it from the world save game manager? Really, you can pick this. In Nephilim, I assign it from the menu when the game starts through a series of functionality. So let's uncomment this, and let's go to the player manager script, and let's actually create this function now, this void. And let's do this. Let's go down here. Why is this? You know what? I'm not going to mess with the naming conventions right now. I'm going to fight the urge to adjust all my naming conventions. We're going to need to do a polished video soon, though. So let's make a public void save character data to current save data. And now we're going to need a reference for the character save data. So I'm going to put reference. Reference is important here, the keyword. Reference character save data, because we want to use a specific save data. And if you don't know the reference between passing by reference, passing by value, I encourage you to take a look at that. It's a good distinction to know. So current character save data dot x position equals our transform dot x position. Current character save data dot y position equals our character transform dot y position, etc., etc. And then you would go current character save data. Whoops, I forgot to turn off my Discord. Sorry about that. Current character save data dot character name is equal to, or character level rather, is equal to character stats. That's where we keep that. Dot our character level. So as you can see, we're just taking everything we have already on our character and we're just passing it to this slave file. That's it. So what's our character level? We know that's on our player stats. What's our character's name? Well, we know that's also on our player stats. So our character name is equal to player stats manager dot character name. Our character level is equal to player stats manager dot player level. And then after it's passed there, as you know, it saves the file to, oh, we have an error here. I forgot to put, there we go. Whatever that is, the colon there or whatever. So yeah, it will save that to a file, and that file is written to our device. So I'm going to make a empty game object called world save manager. I'm going to drag that right to the top of the screen. I'm going to add a component for world save game manager, and I encourage you to save this as a prefab. So I'm going to do that. And I am going to then, what am I doing next? Drag my player in here. And as you can see, the character save data is blank. It's 0 level, no name, and blank coordinates. So let's go and make sure we have a name on our character. I think it's nameless right now. Yes, it's quite literally nameless. So I'm going to make our character level, we'll just say 17 for the sake of doing it. And I'm going to write the name as, we're going to call him Ricky Martin. So we got Ricky Martin, he's level 17. And let's just go into the game here now and kind of move him to a random position. I mean, I guess our position wasn't zeroed out, so we could have kept him there. So if I go down into the World Save Manager and hit save, nothing happens. Okay, what did I forget to do? That's not supposed to happen. Did I click it? I did click it. Okay, well, it might help if I actually call save game on update. You need to call the function in order to use it, so that's a mistake. So let's save and try it again. Save the scripts, I mean. The word save is being used a lot today. So now let's go down to the World Save Manager, and you can see here, 0, characters level 0, name is blank, our position is zeroed out. So if I hit save game, okay, it works, but we have an issue. So Ricky Martin did save, his character level is there, and so is his position, but we have value cannot be null. What value did I not assign? I'm pretty sure I assigned everything. Obviously I didn't, because Unity's throwing me an error, so I messed up somewhere. Ah, yes. We never actually declare our file name, because in my version, I have that declared depending on the character slot. I'm getting way ahead of myself. So give it an arbitrary name. I'm going to call it save game data or save game file. That's it. This will change in the future depending on which slot you have selected. So it could be character slot 01, 02, 03, 04, etc. Now, let's move Ricky Martin over here and let's save the game. So if I go over here and check my position, you'll see I go back down here to the World Save Manager, wherever it is, there it is. And if I save the game, boom, we have our position saved, and we have Ricky Martin and his name and his character level. Now, in the next video, I'm going to show you how to load Ricky Martin from a player model, wherever he is, and it will move the player model to that position. It will assign the name to that player, and it will assign the level to that player. And that gives you a basic understanding of how saving and loading works. Now, for things like, we're going to get into things like item saving too. So, for example, if you pick up an item in the world, you need to tell the world not to respawn that item. For that, we're going to use a dictionary, and you can't normally serialize a dictionary. But since a dictionary is just comprised of two basic types, we can do that, thanks to the gentleman I mentioned in the beginning of the video, who gives a really excellent demonstration on that. So I'm going to show you how to save more complex data types, or I guess rather how to save more complex functionality, because the data types are pretty simple. And I'm going to show you how to save things like equipment and gear. But first, we're going to finish the functionality to allow us to load the character. Now we have it so we can save it. So I will see you guys in the next one. If this did help you out, please be sure to drop a like and leave a comment. It does genuinely help out the series so much. You have no idea. It really helps out the algorithm. So I would appreciate that very much. I will see you guys in the next one. Oh, and before I go, thank you to my patrons. As always, you guys are purely the reason I can keep doing this, and I love doing this. So seriously, thank you very much.